So hello everyone, my name is Sue Lorbach and I've been a clinician and practitioner in child welfare for nearly 30 years now in both the private nonprofit sector and the public child welfare system. And much of what I'm going to talk about today is coming from my experience in the state of Minnesota, specifically Olmsted County. And today's topic is the Practice Improvement Group, also known as the PIG. And the Practice Improvement Group was actually developed, as far as I know, in West Berkshire in England with Damien Griffith and his crew. And Olmsted County had done a site visit to England and had done a bit of an exchange of information and recognized that the Practice Improvement Group was something that jurisdiction and authority in their children's services was being used. And so we imported that into Olmsted County. So the purpose of the Practice Improvement Group, the PIG, is to, as its name says, to provide an opportunity and a forum for really looking at topic areas, dilemmas, themes across the child welfare system to build solutions to these kinds of dilemmas and to bring improved practice into the realm. So in Olmsted County, when the PIG, the Practice Improvement Group, was initiated, I want to think like more than a decade ago at this point, the kinds of topics as examples that would have been brought to this particular group, and in a moment I'll talk a bit more about membership. Some of the dilemmas that we were facing at the time had to do with bringing some consistency around responding to situations where children were left alone in cars. In Minnesota, like in many jurisdictions, the weather plays a big part in the dangerousness that sort of poses for children. Also, children home alone, like what are some guidelines around ages and vulnerabilities and care of other kids. There was an increasing recognition that we were not doing a very good job at engaging fathers, and so that was one of the topic areas, sort of the dilemmas that came to the mix. And also working with families where the caregivers were misusing alcohol and other drugs, and bringing consistency basically across the system from sort of the information gathered at the first call all the way through investigation, family assessment into the ongoing areas. So I wanted to say a bit more about how research and data would be used in particular to inform the group's process around tackling and building solutions to better practices for kids and families. So I'll just take an example topic of engaging fathers. So you basically have representation within the PIG, which I'll talk a bit about more specifically later, that is across the system, so a broader representation. And so as we develop the topic of engaging fathers, then the group really spends some time about what are the bits and elements in there that we really want to focus on. And one of the elements that really rises to the top is, what does the literature tell us? You know, what is the research out there? And so one of the very nice things about having a practice improvement group and having some fun with it being sort of languaged as a PIG is that you can develop subgroups or piglets. And the research and the literature reviews often come as part of what a subgroup or a piglet would take on. So for instance, following the example of engaging fathers, there would have been a piglet that would have taken some time to review the literature and to bring back to the larger group, what do we know about father involvement? And then the larger group would take a look at how to integrate that into everyday practice, every interview, gathering information at the front end and moving forward. Data in other ways can inform the topic areas. So for example, if one of the areas would be looking at how to build a safety plan, an in-home safety plan, to develop one, then the question that would be asked is, what kind of data right now is informing this as a topic, a dilemma of sorts that we want to build practice solutions to. And so it may be mining the records that, you know, in staffings or case reviews, these sorts of themes have come up, and that is basically an indication of how data might paint a picture so that everyone is on a common page with a common understanding of how these particular topics become of interest and are brought to the PIG for further consideration and the development of some sort of outcome that ultimately results in a feedback loop that can go back into the overall practice. When I reflect on the benefits, particularly looking back at Olmsted County around, you know, having a practice improvement group or a PIG in the mix, besides having lots and lots of fun, really looking at issues that are of concern across the system and bringing a more collaborative view and multiple kinds of perspectives to the table. One of the things that really strikes me is one of the outcomes of a PIG project is some sort of product. So, for instance, in the Kids Home Alone, there would be brochures along with Kids in Cars that would be developed. So